Alright, this is part 3 of section 4.1. We're trying to find the intercepts for this graph below. And if we're looking at the x-intercept, that means y is equal to 0. And if y is equal to 0, that means we're on the x-axis, which means we are right here on this x-axis. So it looks like the graph crosses the x-axis right here. And that has the order pair of 2, 0. Okay, so the x-intercept is 2, 0. Now the y-intercept, which means that x is going to be equal to 0, and x is only equal to 0 on the y-axis. Okay, so the y-axis here. So here's the y-axis right here, and it looks like it's got the graph crosses right here. So that's the point 0, 4. Okay, so that means that the y-intercept is 0, 4. Now let's look at vertical and horizontal lines. And now the equation of a vertical line is given as x is equal to some number. Okay, now we've already looked at this. The slope for a vertical line is undefined. The equation for the horizontal line is y is equal to some number. The slope for the horizontal line is 0. Okay, so here's a picture of your vertical line, x equals 2, and a horizontal line, y equals 2. Now the reason why the slope is undefined for a vertical line is, say we take this point right here, which is 2, -1, and we'll take this point right here, which is 2, 1. Alright, we'll say that this is x sub 1, y sub 1, this is x sub 2, y sub 2. So m is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we have -1 minus 1 over 2 minus 2. Notice the top is -2. Notice the bottom is 0. A number divided by 0 is always going to be undefined. Okay, now if we look at, say, this point, which is -1, 2, and this point, which is 1, 2, we'll say this is x sub 1, that's y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. Okay, so y sub 2 is 2 minus 2, and 1 minus -1. So notice the top is 0, the bottom is going to be 2. 0 divided by anything is always equal to 0. So that's why it says if you're looking at a vertical line, the slope of a vertical line will always be undefined. And yet the slope of a horizontal line will always be 0. Is because of no matter what type of vertical or horizontal line that you have, this will always be the case for the vertical, this will always be the case for the horizontal. Okay, so let's graph y is equal to -3. So since we're talking about y is equal to -3, well, y is equal to -3 at this point, at this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, here, 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 here. Okay, so that would be a horizontal line, and that's it. Now x is equal to 4, here, 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 here. Okay, so we'll draw a straight vertical line, and that's it for those. Now let's look at parallel and perpendicular lines. So parallel lines have the same slope, that's important, but different y-intercepts. And parallel lines will never intersect, or they'll never cross over each other. Like these two lines right here. Okay, so there's two parallel lines. Notice that they're never going to cross each other. And look at the equation for this line and for this line. Notice the slope for this line is 2, and the y-intercept is 0 because I don't have a number after it. Here the slope is 2 and the y-intercept is -3. So they have the same slope, just like it says here, but different y-intercepts, like it says here. Now let's look at perpendicular lines. They're going to intersect at 90-degree angles. To represent a 90-degree angle, we put a little box. Okay, so between those two lines, that means that's a 90-degree angle. Now their slopes are going to be negative reciprocals of each other. So let's look at this line. It has a slope of 3. This line right here has a slope of -1/3. Now notice the 3 is positive and the -1/3 is negative. And to basically you take 3 and you flip it, that gives you 1/3. So 1/3 is the reciprocal of 3. And you can also test it by doing this 3 times 1/3. If that gives you -1, then they're going to be perpendicular lines. Now determine if the following pair of lines are perpendicular, parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, so that means that I need to make sure that both of them are in y equals mx plus b format so I can compare these slopes to each other. Okay, so looks like the first one is, the second one isn't. So I need to, I need to make it to where it's in that format. So I'm going to move 1/2 x over to the other side. So -1/2 x minus 4. Okay, now I'm going to compare that to this first one here. So the slope of this one is 2. The slope of this other line is -1/2. Notice how they're different signs, and they are reciprocals of each other. So that means that they are perpendicular lines. Now let's look at this one. Now I'm going to rewrite this so I can distribute that for 3x over 4 plus 1/4. Now here the slope is 3/4. Here the slope is 3. Okay, notice they're not the same, and they don't have different signs, and they're not reciprocals of each other. So that means they are neither parallel or perpendicular, so they are neither. Then let's look at this one. This one is in y equals mx plus b format, but the second one isn't, so we need to change the second one. So I'm going to add 10x to both sides, so 2y is equal to 10x plus 4, and then divide each term by 2. So that's going to be y is equal to 5x plus 2. So notice this has a slope of 5, and this also has a slope of 5. So that means that they have the same slope, so they are parallel lines. Okay, now we're going to write an equation for a line perpendicular to y equals -4x plus 3 passing through the point 8, -2. This whole part right here is really giving us the slope. Because we're going to write an equation for a line, this line is perpendicular to y equals -4x plus 3. So in order for the two lines to be perpendicular, they have to be negative reciprocals of each other. So this one's already negative, so ours needs to be positive, and then we need to flip 4, so 1/4. Okay, then we can apply our point slope formula. So y minus, and this can be x sub 1, y sub 1. So -2 is equal to 1/4 times x minus 8. So y plus 2 is equal to 1/4 x minus 8 over 4. So 1/4 x. If I take a 4 out of both of those, I'm left with 2. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So 1/4 minus 4. So that means that these two lines right here are perpendicular to each other, because notice this is a -4, this is a positive 1/4. If I do 1/4 times -4, I get -1 when I multiply the slopes together. So that means that they are perpendicular to each other. Okay, now we're going to write an equation for a line parallel to y equals -4x plus 3 and passing through the point 8, -2. Okay, so we're going to be parallel to this line. So again, this is just telling you the slope. Parallel lines have the same slope, so our slope is -4. We'll say that this is x sub 1, y sub 1, and we'll use point slope formula again. So we got y minus -2, -4 times x minus 8. Okay, so we got y plus 2 is equal to -4x minus 32. Then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So y equals -4x minus 34. So that means that these two lines right here are parallel to each other. Notice both of them are -4. They have the same slope, so that means they are parallel. Okay, so there's our final answer. Y is equal to -4x minus 34. Oh, one little mistake. -4 times -8. Alright, one little mistake that I had was I had a -32. It should be a positive 32. So because you have a -4 times a -8, that gives you positive 32. So a positive 32 minus 2, that would give us 30. So y equals -4x plus 30, that's going to be our final answer. So consider the equation 5x plus 2y equals 16. We're going to find the slope of a line parallel to this equation, and we'll find the slope perpendicular to this equation. So I need to take 5x plus 2y equal to 16 and get it into the mx plus b, or y equals mx plus b format. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides, and then divide each term by 2. So -5 over 2x plus half of 16 is 8. So if we want a line parallel to this equation, it would be exactly the same. And if we wanted a line perpendicular to this equation, then it would have a slope of a negative reciprocal. Since it's already negative, the perpendicular slope will be positive, and then you just flip it, so 2 over 5. And this would be your final answer.